So it is 10 o'clock. I want to say welcome to the work session for June. Thank you guys for coming. Thank you for being here. We're going to go through in the agenda. I know we started off with department updates, and I'm not going to go through and try to put every department on the spot. I will put one just because I know they've got a couple of things going on. That way they can kind of give us an update on where they're at. But Philip with the water department is the one I was going to throw on the spot because I know we've got some stuff at the airport and then the other projects. Can you give an update to the board?
Yeah, over at the airport, the lift station, they have started, it's been about 2 weeks, I guess. They've been trying to find the force main and utilities. They started blasting Tuesday. They blasted Tuesday at the end of the taxiway, and they've probably got to blast 4 or 5 more times. They've got materials coming in first of next week, so they're going to start running the force main and blast some more tomorrow and next week to get ready for the wet well. So, no, they was going to blast today, but they had problems with a drill rig, and so they moved it till tomorrow.
Okay.
And then going to blast some more, but the biggest holdup is getting materials, and so they've been waiting about 2 weeks on the material, some of the materials, so they'll get it next week, and they'll cut the road, just a small section, and run across and go ahead and get away from all the utilities for the force main, and then they'll work on going across the taxiway, and it should go hopefully pretty quick, but they hit about 30 foot down. They was in solid rock when they drilled, and so they probably got another couple 100 foot of rock to blast.
And you've already gotten with the road. I know we talked about it earlier about making sure we keep traffic flowing through there on creating a detour route right through there to keep it.
Right. Yeah, and I think we figured out a detour route, and I talked to Chief Elrod about it, just to let him know that way if they have any calls over there. We was just going to shut it down and try to reroute traffic, but that's too, to go all the way around Upper Salem and all that. That's a lot. So if we do the little detour that we're going to do, and I'm thinking about a week, maybe not that long, because I have both sides of the taxiway and the road dug up, and so I'm thinking about a week they'll have it shut down and we'll have the detour, but it's going to be a fairly short detour. What else was it? Oh, well, I forgot because I went to the detour.
136.
Yeah, 136. We hadn't worked up there much this week because we've been trying to get caught up on our meters. They keep coming in, they don't stop. We've got about 3,000 foot laid. The city's laying, and they're having to stop and do their maintenance. We're fixing to get into a really slow go because we're going to have 2 crews on one spot because we're going to have to do a lot of flagging because we're getting up on the shoulder of the road instead of out of the ditches and off the banks. Thanks to the DOT, they're allowing us to get on the shoulder, so we're going to be flagging probably for about a month up there. So everybody just pray for my guys when they're up there on 136 flagging.
I drove through there the other day, and they have covered a lot of ground.
Yeah.
So you can see they hit the easy spots, and they've got the hard spots on both ends.
Yeah, they're actually their next big obstacle is going across the swamp. So that's going to be a challenge. Even though it's been as dry as it is, it's still wet down there. So we get through that and it's stay on the shoulder. So.
You have any questions for?
I've been through there.
Brian with the rec department sent me a message asking that he'd be able to stay with them. They started summer camp this week. They've got the largest summer camp that they've ever had that's going right now. I think every parent that's had their kids in quarantine for a while has decided they want their kids out of the house. And they've sent them all. So they've got a big crowd going, but he said that they had the pool opened over the weekend. The weather did drop, so we probably didn't see as much at the pool as what we would have for the holiday weekend, but everything's trucking along over there, full speed. The testing, or not testing, the vaccination site has now moved back to the health department, so they've got the full building for camp.
What are the fees per child for camp? I don't know.
You know, I know we've got a parent back here that has a kid in it, so
$75 a week.
$75 a week. So, I knew that she just enrolled.
He did say that they
Do we know what?
shut off the
So the
registration.
pool is, you can actually get a seasonal membership, and I looked at it online the other day, it was very minimal. I think the seasonal membership per kid was $25, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't have it right here in front of me without Brian sitting here to quiz. But it's minimal, it's not significant, and then there's the per use fee or for the whole season. So you could get it for the whole season, fairly inexpensive. But they're going full speed with it, and they've been able to move through it. Any other departments that have updates you wanna jump out and volunteer? I mean, I gotta pick on somebody other than Philip at some point, if somebody didn't jump in. Roy?
Well, it's that time of year when we're fixing to mail assessment notices out for everybody's property. And there's gonna be all kinds of technical information on the assessment notice. And there's gonna be estimated tax amounts for the value, because that's what Georgia state law requires, from the previous year's millage rate. And on behalf of the tax commissioner's office and our office, printed on the assessment notice is a statement that says this is not a bill. So we want to remind everybody, don't write a check, put it in the mail to make sure that you're not late. The actual tax bills usually come out the first week in October. But that causes a lot of confusion every year, because a lot of people, when they get that and they see that amount, they want to write a check, they want to take care of it so they don't forget it. Don't forget, that's not a tax bill, it's just the assessment notice. And we have so many new property owners, they're always mailed to whoever owned it January 1st of the year, and whatever was there. But if you have questions when you get them and you think we haven't noticed that you bought the property, call our office. We have that information in our future year folder, and we can verify that information with the taxpayers.
When are those scheduled to go out?
Within the week, you think?
Yeah, we can have.
Depending on.
You guys to get with Nina as far as creating a post to start getting it out and share it on social media as well as everywhere else, so that we can kind of explain it in a few variety. But, I mean, I think most of the people that are gonna write you a check aren't the same people that are looking at it on social media, but the ones that are on social media are gonna be the ones that start to question or post about it, so it gives us a chance to maybe stay ahead of it and get the information explained. So, if you two get together, be good. Kurt, were you raising your hand?
Yeah, the only other thing I was gonna throw in there, we've got Twin Mountain Lakes closed until further notice. We've done our part out there, the contractor's coming in the 7th, which is next Monday to start on their part, but we're gonna leave that closed until they get their part done. We may do a little bit of maintenance while we're in there on some other little spots, but that's gonna remain closed to further notice.
When they come in on the 7th, is that when they're gonna start putting in the
Drilling and the
soil nail system?
the wall.
Okay. Any other departments?
I'll do a little brag on ours for recycle, if you don't mind. So far this year, we've sent out 15 loads of recycled fiber. Puts us at about 600,000 pounds that we've actually recycled this year that would've got sent to landfill.
Wow. It's impressive. Nailed up tight.
Bill's tight and going, it's going real good. It's like we here this morning at 5 o'clock loading the truck up, cause we can't get all that on Monday tomorrow, so.
Before we go into the next items, do you have any questions on any departments?
Everybody's doing a great job.
They are staying busy, for sure. They're busy. We'll go in, next time we're gonna talk about is on our board of elections. I know everybody has seen over the past few months that the new state law came out that July 1st will be when the new board will take effect. And then according to that act, it was passed and signed by the governor. The way that the appointments are to take place is each of the parties, the Republican and Democratic parties, send 4 recommendations to the Board of Commissioners for us to then appoint 2 from each party. So it's still equally split, that there's 2 from the Republican Party, 2 from the Democratic Party. And then that the Board of Commissioners be responsible for appointing a chairman that's a nonpartisan member. When we reached out to each of the parties to get their 4 names for each one, we also said if you do have a recommendation for a nonpartisan member that you would like to recommend for chairman, if you would please send that over as well. So I think that each of you have the names from both parties there. Including both parties made a recommendation for a chairman name as well. We have not heard directly from these individuals that were recommended for chairman from the parties. We have from a few other individuals that I think that when we met in the last session, and I can get another copy over, we've had a couple of others that have sent over on our Facebook page an interest. But in order to stay consistent with the time frame, we would need to make the appointments in our upcoming meeting, our voting meeting, the 3rd week in June, so that we can make the appointments for each of them so they can take office and take effect in their positions on July 1st. At the same time, we do have the vacant election supervisor position that's there due to our supervisor resigning a few months ago. One thing I would like to suggest, and this more as a discussion, is that we go ahead and post that as an open position, since it's a paid position, just for the purposes of starting to gain applicants.
Right.
So that when we do appoint the board, they actually have some applicants that they can start going through when they go to hire for that position. I know that we will assist them in as far as making sure that they meet all employee criteria, but we wouldn't be the ones that actually hired it. But I think gives us a chance to get a head start on getting applicants coming in as we get that board in place.
And what about the board? Do we need nominees, do we need to meet with them, or could they just send us a brief bio, not a long bio, with their
Right.
name, what they do, and why they're interested maybe?
Well, we could, and the ones that have sent over that were individually interested have sent over kind of a bio that says why they would like to and what experiences they have. The ones that we had nominated from the parties, we just received their names. We didn't receive a bio, they've just sent our names, but we do have their contact info, so I could send an email to each of them and just kind of draft it on behalf of
Yeah.
and just ask them, could they give us a little background and the reasons that they wanted to, and then we can compile that so that we can gather it.
Yeah, that would be
Before we get in
great if we had it in time for the voting meeting.
Yeah.
Just
I mean, I
more
can
information.
work on getting that out to them today.
Okay.
And like I say, the ones that have filled out the form on our Facebook page actually did provide a little bit of background information, and it may not have made it into your folder. I think I gave a printed copy when we had the last meeting, but I can get another copy of that made to where you have that. But it gives a little bit better description of education and experience that is help prepare, and that they understand that that's for a nonpartisan position, that it's not a partisan in one way or the other. Really, the only way we can check would be to look at the current rosters of who's a member of either party, and then we can know at that point in time. I know that the Republican Party has already provided the current membership list that they have. Democratic Party can provide the same, so that we can use that to cross-reference to make sure that we're not crossing over into a partisan line, that we're looking at the nonpartisan status of them. But if y'all are good, we'll go ahead and post that. I'll get with Paula about posting that as a position, a vacant position, so that we can get those applicants together.
That would be great.
And that way, when we do have our voting meeting, we'll have all the information, and we can make a motion to get that board appointed and up and going. It'll be a little bit of a transition, growing pain, but the Secretary of State's office has said that they'll work with that board to get them trained and up and go in their elections division, so it should be good. The other next item 3 on the agenda was talking about our meeting schedule. I know that we had kind of gone back and forth, and I'm just going to reference an email that was sent, and I know it's we had discussed a few times. One of the hardest, and I'll shift to talking to the room more. One of the hardest things about being a 3-person board is we can't have a conversation without establishing a quorum. So without being in a public meeting, there's no opportunity to really discuss and kind of look at what's going on, so trying to find ways to be able to have more opportunities to talk within the framework of the way the law sets, so that we're still 100% compliant and consistent. We looked at Dawson and Cherokee County's meeting schedules and a few other county meeting schedules, just to take a look at how they structure and organize their work sessions and their voting meetings, but also looking at our local act as to what's required for ours. And in that, one example would be if we were to follow a guideline of where we had the meetings similar to the first and third Thursdays like we do now. Currently, we have a work session on the first Thursday, and we have our voting meeting on the third Thursday. That keeps us consistent with our local act that would give time in between. Several of the counties around us actually do both of those meetings twice a month. So they will have a work session followed by an executive session if needed, and then followed by your voting session going forward from there. So instead of having a work session on the first Thursday and a voting session on the third Thursday, one possibility would be to have, and I'll use just an example of the times of what we would, if we had a work session at 4 o'clock on both the first and the third Thursdays, then we could follow that with an executive session if there's need for personnel conversations, legal conversations, or property conversations, anything that's covered under executive session, so that we can make sure we're following that, and then going into our standard meeting at 6 o'clock. So we kind of stack those meetings, and we would do them twice a month. The reason I would like to kind of throw this on the table to you guys would be, one, to get more public input on a few different topics. One, as we go through our ordinances, we're going to have a lot more public meetings if we're going to change any ordinances. We have to advertise the public meeting that we can get public feedback on that. Two, with some of the zoning, the more complicated zoning requests, the rezone request, is to create an opportunity for us to be able to hear more information in a work session environment, so that the first time we're discussing is not when it's to be voted on. I mean, I know we all have access to be able to go back and review the meetings and watch the videos of the meetings from when the planning and zoning has their public, but this would give us one more layer to where we can gather, but more informed decisions with what's going on. So those were the reasons that I kind of wanted to throw that on the table for conversation. And I know it creates a change, and we would have to be careful, especially establishing how, because of our local act, we have to have a work session. We have to have at least, I think it's 10 days. We have to have a window of time between the time we discuss it and the time we vote on it. So we couldn't go straight from a work session to a voting meeting on that topic. We would have to hold that topic till the next meeting. And so when we start, it would be kind of awkward at first to shift, but I think if we were disciplined about it, that we knew that was for the next voting meeting, that we could constantly kind of stay in that way.
I like that idea, that it helps us get more information, to have those two meetings. And the other thing, though, that I've been thinking about, like you said, the local meeting, we can't just get together and chit-chat. We are allowed to do emails, phone calls. The only thing we have to know is they're subject to open records.
Mm-hmm.
And with the political climate locally, that's a little scary. But the other thing, if we had the meetings like you're talking about, and then in addition to that, had a person like Bill Wood, I don't know if he's in here.
Hiding in the corner.
Hiding in the corner. Oh, there he is. Like if you were an intermediary, that we could go to you, and then Chris could tell you to let us know that. Like you and I are meeting tomorrow on some things that Chris asked us to do.
I think that creates it just gives us an opportunity and that's going back to what I said at the beginning, to being a 3-person board, the hardest sized board to function on a daily basis. But I think that there are ways that we can constantly stay active.
What do you think of that idea?
I like it.
Okay. And also do what you're talking about as well, change the meetings.
And then I know with summer coming up, July schedules get a little bit crazy, and in August sometimes with both staff and with everybody else with vacations. and we won't be voting on this until the upcoming meeting, but I would say that this be something that we try to get all organized over the next 2 months and then try to start it in September.
Oh, okay.
Would be my proposal, is to, when we get to that point, that way in September, we kind of change the meeting schedule, and that gives us a couple months to let the public know and be, you know, be familiar with what's going on while we're doing it, that it's not just a arbitrary decision. Lisa's the one that catches the brunt of this change, because it's a few more meetings with minutes that she'll be doing, so if I can keep her supplied with Diet Coke, we'll be okay. Maybe for a little while.
That is a great change, though. I mean, I think it's gonna help the public and us with information. So, yeah.
You good with it? Yep. I mean, I know it's, when we get to our next voting meeting, we put it on the agenda to go through it, and get that going. So the next item would be American Rescue Plan funds. I know that, I think Faye had sent an email to kind of give us some information. I printed the guide. ACCG kind of sent out a guideline to show where some of that breakdown as to how that money can be spent and what the time frames of when it can be spent are there. We did receive a deposit from the federal government that we are, and I don't have the exact number right for this, 3.165. I had to get Faye to get me the exact number. I think it was $3,165,000, which was this year's allotment. We'll get that same amount again next year. So in May, we will receive an additional 3.1 that's coming from that. There are some fairly strict guidelines, but there's also some flexibility within those guidelines. When the ACCG put this out, they referred to it as buckets, as far as where the money could be in these buckets that could be used for different things. One of the more generalized buckets, I guess, for using the terms that they used, was on public safety salaries. Find the page here. What they did reference is being able to pay public safety salaries. I think it was page 20 in the big packet. I'm trying to remember what page it was in the summary that the ACCG sent out. It is. And they refer to it as frontline positions, actually. Frontline positions that are clearly eligible, which would include EMS, fire, deputies, jailers. They did warn against using it for administrative positions because of the way that it was phrased and the way that it was worded. But that would give us the ability, if you look just at public safety salaries alone, if you were to take those departments of what's being paid in those salaries currently, if that money, if we were using this to fund those line items, then that money that was budgeted into those line items could be used in a broader category. They also included HVAC, which was kind of unique, that they put specific language in there that included heating and air systems, which I know we've had a couple of conversations about the capital improvement plan, that was a big need that we were going to have. They've included tourism, lost revenue for tourism projects is another line item that was discussed within it. And they also, at the very end, kind of give you this window of time of, basically, we'll be receiving this money through next year, but we have through 2026 for it to be spent. So it's not something that we have to rush out immediately. We can kind of gather the information and use that information a little bit so that we make sure we're making wise choices, come up with what those percentages can be. If we come up with a percentage amount that what we want to fund for pre-existing budget line items, that like public safety salaries, in addition to additional projects. I know that we've had to put on hold the Tate Depot project for tourism for a while. This may give an opportunity to really push that forward, along with some of the different and water and sewer, and that's the biggest area that they do. They talk about water, sewer, and broadband as infrastructure development. And I think we can kind of look at from a 2-year window of what we spent this year. Doesn't mean that we lock that in for next year. We could actually spend more on capital improvement the following year if we needed to in those categories. But I wanted to get this packet to you and then open the door for the conversation as to items that you feel.
How can we get together, like you said, and get a percentage? Do we need to do that in a work session or an executive session, or how do we?
We could call similar to what we did with our planning meeting. We could just have a call, a separate planning meeting that's specific to that we could end up getting together as long as we advertise the planning meeting.
I think we're gonna need to do that, don't you?
I think, I mean,
It's involved.
it's definitely involved. Now, in speaking with Faye, one thing that we will need to do at a voting meeting is to vote to set up the account to move this money to let it be held. And that's just to establish that line item that we will be pulling from in the future. So when we have our meeting, we'll probably have an agenda item that we can discuss and vote on at the upcoming meeting that would just establish an account for the money to be
Yeah.
put into. And that way it's not just sitting in general funds, and that way we make sure that we're designating them. So we'll have that prepared for the upcoming meeting.
Now, I know you said public safety, would that include the fire and Sloan's group?
Yep. Yeah, it's got fire EMS and law enforcement. They didn't go into a breakdown. I know in the CARES Act, when the last one, it covered a broader category of first responders. This one, they were a little bit more specific into the way that they worded it on frontline workers. They didn't give as broad a definition. I think probably because one was the state was providing the updates, and this one the federal government was providing it. So we're trying to make sure we stay well within it. Just with the salary line items alone within those two, if you were to take a look at fire EMS and the sheriff's office, if you were to take a look at just those two line items alone, there's enough going out in payroll that would, if we wanted to, we could use 100% of this in that category, and it would be in that. I mean, and I'm not saying that we would have to, but there is enough that's being paid out of those two line items over the course of the year that would be able to do it. I do believe that we've got an opportunity that we probably never will ever have again to make it, and so whatever we can do that gets the best return on investment is probably one of the smartest things we can consider as we're looking at okay, what's going to make the biggest impact and what's going to be able to help. And so I like the idea of having more conversations personally for me.
Yeah. Because, I don't know if you've thought about those little things that I came up with about making the summer camp free, making the pool free. We could do it for 2 years and hit a broader number of people.
And that way you can offer
And then the recycle, Kenny, I think Chris talked to you about maybe having a couple of 3
amnesty days or something,
yeah.
so we can kind of take to offset the funding.
Yeah, how do you feel about that?
That's what we used to do before, around, so it wouldn't be a big deal.
You did do it there.
Yeah.
How many days did y'all do it?
We did like on a Saturday,
One day?
one day, for 1 month, and then we do it again later on in the year. Sort of split it up.
I've actually had a lot of people call and suggest to me that we do that. They feel like that would be given back to the citizens. So if it's not, could you take like furniture if they wanted to get rid of some pieces of furniture or something?
Oh, yeah.
Your
I'll
equipment.
just have to plan far enough ahead to get enough dumpsters there to cover everything.
And wouldn't we have to put something in there like no construction materials or something? Because that could get really crazy.
It would. Yeah, we'd fill the dumpsters up like that.
Yeah, so we could get specific.
Right, and just make sure it's just for Pickens County on that way, nobody comes in from out of town.
Well, if you've done it in Rome, then you're familiar. What did you?
Yeah,
how
I
do you
mean,
feel about that,
I think
Jerry?
as we look at, I think we just gotta look at the line item as to what that costs. That's the only thing that's gonna be kinda hard is to, how much are we
Yeah,
financially gonna commit? I'm not saying it's impossible, we can do it, but I think we've just gotta calculate what that cost is to the recycling so that we can offset what they're gonna lose in revenue
Yeah,
from the bags.
definitely. Yeah.
Same with the pool, if we were to come up with a way, maybe to offer, certain, like a week, here or there, a week for the summer camp program to parents, and then just calculate out what would that be in a loss of revenue so we can pull from that line item to show it. That would help all the families that are using those services.
Yeah, when you mentioned the PowerPoints, I went home and looked at all that. And one thing it stressed a lot was helping, maybe low-income families, and that would be little things, but it would mean a lot to a lot of people. I mean, those counts
But
or
the biggest thing, if you wanna really make them happy, is let's do a hazardous material one,
do a what?
hazardous material. That way we get rid of paint, light bulbs, gasoline. That's the biggest phone calls I get right there.
That is a good idea.
That would be a whole lot better on us than doing,
Okay.
That's where we would contract with the company out of Atlanta that can
right,
come up
I've
to
got
collect
two
it.
different companies we can contract, yeah.
Yeah.
But the hazardous material would be the best, I mean, you'd probably make everybody happy.
Yeah, that sounds great. Just get as much as we can out to help as many as we can, and that's not big things.
Oh, I just, when he said we'd make everybody happy, I kind of almost laughed, because I don't know that that's gonna happen necessarily,
But every
but.
phone call I get is, what can I do with paint, what can I do with light bulbs?
Yeah.
That's the biggest
Yeah.
complaint.
That is a great idea.
Create an opportunity to do it. I know we've had a couple, you and I had a meeting with one lady that was trying to coordinate that a while back, but I do think that there's a lot of potential. What I'll do, if you want me to, is when we finish today, is get Lisa to have y'all look at your calendars
Yeah.
and just see when we might could schedule a meeting that we can sit down and really specifically look line item by line item at what we can allot and how much we were trying to allot in different areas, and give y'all a chance to get feedback from your citizens in your sides of the county, and we can also kind of pool all that together and come up with a good plan and strategy.
That sounds great.
So as far as the agenda items, that's what we've got locked in. Do you guys have anything else that you wanted to? I think one other on the Roper Park, Brian had sent yesterday that getting the first meeting with the architect and the steering committee, something that they've got that date set.
Yeah,
First quarter.
I met with him this morning,
Okay. So that's up and going and moving forward.
and he's so busy, he had to.
Yeah, the summer camps game, he had a couple that were off today, is what threw his
Yeah.
schedule for a major league, so he was reaching out. Anybody else have any more you want to cover, or anything else we missed? All right, well, it is 10:30, I'll say thank you for everybody for coming, and we will adjourn till another day.